Hello, this is Dwight, your host of Infinity Evolution Gaming. The month of April, and really the first quarter of any given year, is typically a slow period for gaming. But with that said, we usually are treated to game-related news and industry insider forecasts, thanks to trade events like GDC, which stands for Game Developers Conference, and D.I.C.E Summit, which is an acronym for Design, Innovate, Communicate, and Entertain, and the latter of which will be our focus of today's video. Specifically, Phil Spencer's keynote address entitled Building a Living and Learning Company Culture. I was impressed with Phil Spencer's keynote address that had an emphasis on diversity in games and the gaming industry. Some of the statements and key highlights from his speech were issues covering a range of topics, like focusing on human-made structures and items as a means to spotlight the culture that created them within this entertainment medium, even mentioning Unesco World Heritage Preserves. He also used his time on stage to highlight the need for culture and industry change in hiring practices and the character creation and casting process in the very medium that video game developers create. And I don't see this as diversity for diversity's sake. These are rare words spoken by a business CEO. Together we can make gaming a reflection of not just the world we want to see, but we can change it into the world we want to be in. I've always liked Phil Spencer as a champion of gaming that puts gamers first, but in his new role with Microsoft, I respect him for putting himself out there front and center, pushing for a cause that has been long unaddressed in the gaming industry. We shouldn't expect this to be an overnight change by any means, but we should hopefully see sparks of this at this year's upcoming E3 conference. Some of the questions raised by Phil Spencer during his keynote address were, how do we transform our industry to prepare for the massive growth opportunity? Certainly that is a rhetorical question, but like I was saying previously, certainly appealing to a large percentage of your consumer base would help. So placing people of color in positive and prominent roles in gaming would be certainly a great step forward in that regard. He made a mention of gaming for everyone, so obvious that that's what you would want to do, to make a good step forward in that regard. Inclusion certainly isn't something that would hurt anybody, and it's certainly not unlike Microsoft has shown a commitment to this in the past. Previous GDC events, they focused on having different seminars for outreach in regards to just the status quo. They hosted events entitled Black, Latino, and Women in Gaming, which is admirable as well, just to see that we get more diversity, or at least there's an outreach for more diversity within the gaming community and in the gaming industry. That way, the people that are creating these games, there's a more holistic approach in regards to including everybody, again, not only in the game creation process, but within the game in and of itself, which is admirable. A large portion of the gaming industry consumer base is certainly people of color, and it is certainly uplifting to see that there's a commitment to not only include their full customer base within the game creation process in the type of stories that they tell. But I think it only makes common sense for your consumer base, to be comprised, of such a large percentage of people of color. Then you should be able to speak to those people of color as well within the confines of the game in and of itself. I, for one, have been gaming since as long back as I can remember, and with that being said, this particular topic has always been a point of contention in regards to representation in video games. We certainly started out well within, say, the 8-bit era of gaming with games like Streets of Rage, of course, sports genre of games, by the virtue of the majority of players in professional sports are people of color. They've always been represented in sports, but that's a given. But it's nice to see that we could potentially have more branching out of other genres. And it's actually a shame that the only game I can really remember from a classic gaming standpoint, and really to a large point, modern gaming standpoint, would be Streets of Rage, with 2 actual people of color comprising its cast of characters, protagonists, hero characters. So that's a plus for Streets of Rage, but certainly it seems to be like a stall out over these last couple of decades that we haven't seen more prominent characters of color holding down, a feature role or a leading role in a video game. Microsoft has certainly had success with titles like the Halo franchise and its main protagonist Master Chief, along with many other titles. But I think it's great more variety and a wider range of games and game settings will be coming from the company in the future. And if you've ever been a person to question or wonder why more protagonists in games aren't people of color or women, then I urge you to watch in full Phil Spencer's 2018 D.I.C.E keynote address. It's inspiring to see that a company is taking strides in this regard, really in a topic and category that has been sorely overlooked over these last few decades of gaming, and some would say since the inception of gaming itself. It certainly is again inspiring to see that these type of moves are being made to make a change in that regard. Okay, so those are my initial thoughts in regards to this initiative and guidance set forth by Microsoft and our own gamer business executive Phil Spencer. Great things to look forward to from everything said and told here. I'll leave you with the conclusion of Phil Spencer's keynote address.
Just as culture is renewing at Microsoft, I think culture can be the tool that enables us to realize the true power and potential of gaming. The time to get our culture right is right now. There are massive shifts in technology. Customers and entertainment itself can ultimately help us create new games and welcome new gamers. Our reach and impact can be so much greater if we're ready. First, the next wave of the digital revolution is increasingly drawing gamers and creators together across geographies, across play platforms, and across watch platforms. It's not surprising that gaming has always been on the bleeding edge of the digital revolution, what some people have called the democratization of technology. What's exciting to me is how digital tools like Unity and others are becoming democratized, empowering more indie creators to become the next Stardew Valley, Never Alone, or to build the next Ori or Subnautica. Our digital tools are also enabling distributed development so teams can work across regions and across cultures. This is great news for gaming because studies show that exposure to different cultures and values actually encourages flexibility and, most importantly, creativity. And now, consider that the line between creator and customer has never been so thin. Think about it. When Madeleine L'Engle wrote her books, no one really knew how to get in touch with her. Now, creators, meaning everyone in this room, as we're all so painfully aware sometimes, we're one Twitter handle away. Feedback loops are instantaneous. Communities have a direct line to us. Through Discord and other forums, they can tell us exactly what they think about what we've created. And if we think that these technological advances have impacted creators and consumers, just check out the next wave of the digital revolution: AI, mixed reality, cloud computing. I fully expect to see unprecedented creativity and collaboration between studios and gamers. And the second big trend is the increasing scale and accessibility of gaming itself. More people than ever before are going to have access to a broader and more diverse set of games. Just like it was for myself, we know that for many people around the world, gaming is the first entry point into technology. I think this is going to be even more true in the near future because of the ubiquity and access to screens. One estimate sees the number of gamers growing to be over 2 billion people worldwide in 3 years. I think the question we need to ask is this: how do we transform our industry to prepare for this massive growth opportunity? Now consider that new gamers are joining us from places like Brazil, India, throughout Africa. We're going to see increasing opportunity along with increasing responsibility to make gaming for everyone. So the second question we need to ask is this: how do we transform our culture to prepare for new gamers from different cultures, different backgrounds, and different worldviews. And third, the blurring of the line between gaming and entertainment continues. 2017 was the year where entertainment didn't just blast open cultural change with Me Too, it marshaled in the power of the medium to shift the narratives around identity. Art, literature, movies, music, even street art has always played an instrumental role in creating empathy, changing perceptions, and shaping worldviews. Gaming as an art form has done this too, such as Life is Strange, where relationships weren't saddled with preconceived notions. Or Minecraft, where a study showed that it actually built empathy as students learned firsthand how their decisions and their interactions affected each other's responses. And then take reading. Recent studies show reading Harry Potter can actually improve kids' attitudes towards marginalized groups. After readers see Harry and Hermione face discrimination, they themselves become less prejudiced towards minority groups in their own lives. I bet in a few years we'll be talking about the Coco effect. Coco was the first all-Latinx Pixar movie. The first time Pixar told a story about a cultural celebration. The first time Pixar hired cultural advisors and invited them into their ultra-secret creative process. Because authenticity was a priority and a focus. The result wasn't just a loving tribute to Mexico, but a triumphant global introduction to real Mexican culture. Wonder Woman. From the LA Times to Business Insider, reviewers talked about the significance of the moment. The one where Wonder Woman takes the first step into no man's land. The moment that young girls can use for inspiration to be strong-willed and driven in the real world. Get Out isn't just an award-winning horror movie, but a brilliant commentary on racism. As Jordan Peele, the awesome director, said, "We can discuss race all day long, but if you see a movie that successfully puts yourself in the shoes of somebody different than yourself, you see the world differently." So I think of the power of story is greater than the power of the conversation. And now we have Black Panther. LA Times called it incredible, kinetic, purposeful. A superhero movie about why representation and identity matters. These movies advanced a new and arguably more accurate way of seeing and relating to people in our real world. They showed that representation matters, not just for the community they represent, but for the world at large. To the question, what kind of world are you building? These movies answered loudly, a world where all of us can be the hero. And these commercially and critically successful films won hearts, minds, and yes, box offices. Representation isn't just good common sense, it's good business sense. And with all these new tools empowering new creators, and with the increasing reach to new gamers around the globe, I think we, as an industry, are at our own crossroads. We can do better. My team and I need to do better. We as an industry must commit to doing better and eradicating this piece of our culture. And we've got to figure it out, because study after study after study shows that teams with the most representation are the most creative, the most innovative, and the most undaunted by big problems. In other words, we do our best work when people on our own teams can expand each other's worldviews. In Minecraft, Steve used to be described as an architect, a designer, or a geologist. Alex, well, she liked to build and explore. One of our Minecraft leaders, Lydia Winters, pointed out the subtle but powerful gender distinction. So we decided, no, Steve is not the warrior and Alex the interior decorator. That no, Alex would not stand behind Steve on the box art. And incidentally, no, it's not a woman's job to think about gendered language. These deliberate fixes made Minecraft more gender equal. And they signal to our players and to our teams to think of them as equal. Since representation can enable teams to build richer experiences, then team composition really matters. This is an area I'm personally invested in this year. How do we recruit? How do we retain? How do we develop? How do we pick our high potentials? And who do we pick? How do we track external hires and who do we track? I know we all maintain a hire list. Take a look at your list. Are they all the same type of people? Data shows that we can be as aggressive as we want to be with recruiting diverse candidates, but if the work environment in our own teams isn't welcoming, they'll leave. So what are we doing now to ensure that everyone, regardless of gender, sexual orientation, race, or physical ability, can feel safe and inspired to do their best work? Brotopia, a new book by Emily Chang, has a list of practical solutions. You should read it. Like scrubbing job postings that use male-biased terms like rockstar and ninja. Research shows that those type of job descriptions signal your work culture and get fewer applications overall, and of course, fewer from women. And of course, there are big systemic issues at play here. How do we build the talent pipeline beyond the pool of available talent today and welcome many people into an industry where everyone wants to work? Even as we work towards these long-term talent solutions, there are questions that we need to ask and answer now. The same as other forms of entertainment. Hollywood is being asked, why not John Cho? Publishing is being asked, why not own voices? It's our turn to ask ourselves, why not all of us? What's amazing is that all of us here today get to create worlds for gamers as a living. 99% of the time, my job is great, until it isn't. And that's usually when I hear about an experience on our platform that's just disturbing. Like when a player tells us, I don't want anyone to know I was black. Once they found out, it was on. They'd call me the worst old school names. Guys would shoot me, even on my own team. Or when they realize I'm a girl, they'll either get vulgar or aggressive, which I didn't want any of that. I just wanted to play the game, just work together as a team. Or if it's my friend's first time playing a game, I'll ease them into games where I know it isn't a toxic community. These are real quotes. And the sobering thing, this isn't even close to being the worst of the vitriol and threats that people endure online. And this is a failure. The sad truth is that people today who are harassed online, they start avoiding our gaming. Then they start warning others to avoid gaming. And that's pretty much the antithesis of community. Much less fun. To quote Emily Chang again, the message of these negatives, upsetting episodes is this: you're not welcome here. And if you choose to show up anyway, be prepared to live with any harassment that comes your way. Honestly, toxic behavior doesn't just hurt the individual, it hurts our entire industry. When toxicity is aimed at one of us, it needs to stop with all of us. That's why I'm encouraging our community to coming together to talk about specific actions. Let's stand together to reinforce that, hey, beneath the pixels, there's real people here trying to have fun. Let's stand together and be ready for Ready Player 2 billion. Let's stand together and really commit to gaming for everyone. If you haven't already looked at the work that Riot did or what Jeff Kaplan is doing over at Blizzard to address the toxic plague, definitely do. The early results of some of Blizzard's work are really promising. With a couple of fixes, they've already driven down the incidence of abusive chat by 17% and player reporting by 20%, because people are trusting the system. And let's commit to absolutely including gamers with disabilities. Not just giving them access, but keeping it fun for them too. When we truly design for all, we help make the world equal for all. My favorite passage in Schreier's book is about Diablo 3. It proved a point that would influence numerous game developers to come. Every game can be fixed. Well, every world can be fixed too. I think we're in a game-changing moment. One where we can collectively decide that it's not enough that we be game makers. One where we can conclusively decide that no matter how hard it is, no matter how uncharted the territory, we are world makers. In a world where we have 7.6 billion people, where 4 billion people are connected, where over 2 billion people are expected to play games within 3 years, the future of gaming is why getting our culture right is important now. This isn't about culture for collective impact today. This is about investing in culture for global business impact tomorrow. The best part of D.I.C.E to me is the spirit of collaboration. It's our moment where we can focus on each other and the topics that really matter to our art form. There are no distractions, just us, just this. Let's figure out how to work together, how we want to lead on this. I'm asking each of you, what world do you want to build? I want to know, what world could we build together if we could expand our team composition? What world could we build if we created a more effective culture for everyone working in it? And what world could we build if we made all gamers feel welcome? For me, regardless of the strategies or the specifics, I know what kind of world we can make. A world that elevates gaming way beyond epic lands and legendary characters. A world that elevates the impact and reach of gaming. A world that changes the way people see and relate to each other as equals. A world that unifies and leaves lasting value because we dared to create for all of us. Thanks.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you so much.
Again, thank you for tuning in to Infinity Evolution Gaming. If you like this video and like more content, please, of course, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Feel free to leave a comment below. It is appreciated and will be responded to by the community or myself in kind. Until next time, be real.